Well, I'm a firm believer that the numbers who are here are the ones who are supposed to be here. Do we have any red-blooded, liberty-loving, Bible-thumping, Magnum-carrying, V8 driving Texans in the house right now? There's a handful of you. I spent a lot of time in corporate America before becoming an entrepreneur a number of years ago, and when you're in corporate America and in management, which I was, you do a lot of this management training where they have you create a mission statement for your life. Anybody ever do this thing, a life mission statement? I hate that thing. I'd come up with one, that sounds stupid. Cross it off, do another one. I could never come up with one. I have finally come up with a mission statement for my life. It's taken the better part of 47 years, but I've got it. My mission in life is to fundamentally change the Republican Party. That's my life statement. Now think about this, because this is interesting. We're registered Republicans here. And I say I want to change the party and people clap, like, we suck. Here's why I say this. Everyone knows the Republican Party, the conservative party, is doing a lousy job of connecting with ethnic minority voters. Everybody knows this. Right. My thing is simply this. The conservative party in this country does not need to change its policies for the most part. It does not need to change its people for the most part. Does not need to become socialists light for the most part. Those aren't the problems. The problem right now is a lack of relationship to minority voters. And until that relationship's in place, the votes aren't going to be there. And that's my mission in life. So what I want to talk to you about today is the truths of the demographics of our country. Right now in America, last two elections ago, 2008, John McCain got about 6% of the black vote in this country. Mitt Romney did a little bit better. He got about 9%. If either one of those men had gotten just about 10% more, they would have won. That's how important this is. What happened in the last election, I'm going to give credit to somebody that you'd probably be surprised, but there is a Washington insider who is a just gorgeous, drop-dead, beautiful, articulate, extraordinarily intelligent pundit, the chairwoman of the DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She said something after the last election that's extremely powerful. She was on CNN the night of the election, after it had been, or about a week or so later, and she said, with the swearing in of the new Congress, our current Congress, she said, with the swearing in of this Congress, the Democrat caucus will now be majority minority, majority female. The Republican caucus will be more white, more male, and more over 50. And she was correct. That's what happened with this last election. And this, my friends, is a significant issue because the fact of the matter is the demographics of our nation are changing. America is turning brown. We all know this. The Democrat Party is changing with the complexion of the country, but the Republican Party is not. And unless we get that turned around, that could mean bad things in terms of maintaining our 38. So here's what I think is happening in the country. It's not what I think is happening. This is what's happening, and this is our challenge. And I'm going to challenge you to work with me on changing some things. Right now, in the United States of America, we have reached the point where a candidate for office can win simply by winning the majority of cities that are home to an NFL franchise. I want you to think about this for a couple of minutes. If you go across the country, you pull out the sports section and take a look at those cities that are home to an NFL franchise and the states they reside in, you can almost pull up the Electoral College map and figure out who won which state. So if you look at the popular vote in the last election was about 50-50. It always is, right? Barack Obama got 50.6% of the popular vote. It's a 50-50 split. But then if you look at the Electoral College split, it isn't even close. You need 270 to win. Mitt Romney got 206. by getting 50% of the population. Well, how is that possible? I'll tell you how it's possible. Because he won South Dakota, he won North Dakota, he won Wyoming, he won Montana, he won Idaho. It's great to win those states, but nobody lives there. There are no people. But if you pull up the sports section on Sunday, and you look at the NFL standings, you could almost go right through it. Over here, on this side of the country, Seattle, Seahawks, Washington, Obama. California, 49ers, Chargers, Obama. Colorado, Broncos, Obama. Minnesota, Vikings, Obama. Michigan, Lions, Obama. Wisconsin, Packers, Obama. Illinois, Bears, Obama. Pennsylvania, Eagles, Steelers, Obama. New York, Bills, Giants, Obama. New England, Massachusetts, Patriots, Obama. New Jersey, Jets, Obama. Maryland, Ravens, Obama. DC, Redskins, Obama. Florida, Dolphins, Buccaneers, Jaguars, Obama. Louisiana, Saints, Obama. You can just go right through it. With one glaring exception. Texas. But here's what this means. What this means is that the Conservative Party is losing its ability to capture and penetrate the urban vote. And if you look at all those cities that I just named, they all have three things in common. An NFL franchise, black and brown people. And this is a challenge. This challenge reminds me of a movie you may have seen. It's probably about 15 years old now with Dustin Hoffman. A movie called Outbreak. Anybody ever seen Outbreak? It's very good.
Yeah.
It's about this virus. I think it loosely tracks the course of the Ebola virus from Africa. This virus pops up in some little village in Africa. And this particular virus is extraordinarily aggressive. From the time, it kills people. From the time they start showing symptoms to the time they're sticking them in the ground is only a matter of about 5 or 6 days. It just kills them like that. And this virus comes to the United States. Well, what happens in the movie is they find somebody that begins showing symptoms of having the sickness. They take a blood sample, look at the blood sample under a microscope, and the blood cell, is all healthy in the middle. Okay, it's that clear, milky stuff it's supposed to be in the middle. But then around the edges is a ring, a black ring, where it's starting to die. Okay, the virus is killing it. Then they wait a couple of days or whatever, take another blood sample, look at it under the microscope, same thing. That red, that clear milky stuff in the middle is still there, but the ring of death is getting thicker, right? The virus is invading the host. It's starting to kill the cell. Then they take another sample a few days after that, look at it under the microscope, the whole thing is black. It's dead. That is liberalism in our country. Right now, you look out here in the middle, Texas, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Montana. It's all red. It's all that healthy, Bible-thumping, V8 driving, 38 special carrying stuff that we love. But you look along the edges, and it's turning all blue. Am I right? You look over here, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Sacramento, San Jose, Los Angeles, San Diego, Las Vegas. It's all blue. Then you look over here, Philadelphia, Boston, New York, Newark, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, it's all blue. And now what's happening is that blue, that virus, that sickness is invading the cell. It's invading the host. It's working its way into the middle of the country, and it is getting there by riding in along on the backs of those cities that are home to an NFL franchise. And you can just look at the map and pick it out where the blue is. There's St. Louis. There's Chicago. There's Detroit. Splotches of blue showing up. And if we don't A, hold 38, and B, start penetrating the ethnic minority vote, pretty soon, the only states the red team can win are those states that nobody lives in. Those states without an NFL franchise. Now, my thing is simply this. I hate it when people get up on a podium at a rally or wherever, and they talk the problem. We all know the problem. Don't get up and tell me how bad Obama is and all the bad things he's doing. I already know. That's right. I don't want to hear the problem. What I want to hear are your solutions. If you don't have any solutions, what good are you? If you don't have any solutions, get off the podium and give the microphone to somebody that does. I hate that. So what I've done in my organization in Colorado, and we're going to tell you a little about that before I get off of here, I have come up with a plan. I have a very, very simple 5-point plan that I am working on getting into the hands of conservatives across this country, elected office holders, Tea Party leaders, whatever, and talk to these people about what it takes to penetrate and begin making inroads into ethnic minority communities in their districts. Because what we find, and I know a lot of you relate to this, white people, is say, I'd love to do the outreach thing, I'd love to do the inclusion thing, but how do I do that? It's very uncomfortable. I don't understand the culture. Where do we start? And I'll tell you where we start. Where we start is not talking to people about policy. We start by talking to people about how many children they have. We start by finding out if the school in their neighborhood is succeeding. The issue that the conservative party in this country has is not that its policies are wrong. Some of them may be. But that's not the issue. The issue is a lack of relationship. It's not policy-based for the most part. And for evidence, you don't have to look any further than Detroit, Michigan. Everyone knows what the deal is in Detroit. If you don't, you're living on another planet. Detroit is one of the greatest cities on the planet. One of the greatest cities in the world. A couple of decades ago is now half of its former self. Used to be 1.5 million people. It's now 700,000 people. 35,000 vacated buildings that need to be bulldozed. Everyone knows the problems in Detroit. Detroit is the most heavily per capita black city in the country. 88% of people in Detroit are black people. Their city has been decimated by liberal policies and politicians. Yet come November, 90% of those 88% of black people are going to go and vote for a Democrat. So clearly the issue isn't policy. Right? If the issue were policy, there wouldn't be a black person in Detroit who would even consider voting for a Democrat. That's not the problem. The problem is a lack of relationship. What you hear in the black communities, and what you hear in Hispanic communities, and what you see on the news on MSNBC, if you can stand it, is that the Republicans are racists, the Republicans don't care about us, the Republicans don't care about the poor. It's all relational. First, we have to work on building relationships into the ethnic minority community. Once the relationships are in place, then we can pursue the votes. You cannot do it the other way around, and that's what the Republicans and the conservatives have been trying for 50 years. You cannot send a team of people into the hood 6 weeks before an election, walking around handing out flyers saying, we care about you too, and think that's going to produce results. That is an insult. The Conservative Party does not have an election day problem when it comes to reaching minorities. The problem the Conservative Party has is the 3 years, 11 months, and 29 days in between the elections. And if we start doing a better job on those days, then the elections will begin to take care of themselves. But that means investing some time, effort, resources, manpower, and finances into making it happen. So what have I done? I've come up with 5 things, a 5-point plan that any conservative in this country can begin enacting in his or her community to begin the process of building relationships. This will not produce fruit this election cycle, very little. And we can't focus on that. There was once a point in this country when every black person in the country voted for Republicans. Set us free from slavery, right? Who would you vote for? Well, that pendulum has now swung to the point where 93% of us are voting for the liberals. Swinging it back will not happen in 5 months, but it can happen if we start the process of building relationships and putting seeds in the ground today. They will bear fruits tomorrow. 5 things. Number 1, Mr. and Mrs. elected conservative or Mr. and Mrs. candidate for office. Join up and show up. In most communities in this country, you have local chapters of ethnic minority organizations like the NAACP, like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, like the Urban League, like the African American Chamber of Commerce. Whatever you've got, Mr. and Mrs. elected official, you need to join that thing and start showing up at those meetings. In my hometown, Colorado Springs, small city, about 500,000 people, or 500,000 people, we have a local chapter of NAACP of which I am a member. I go to our NAACP meetings and I see elected officials there all the time. Guess who? The liberals are there. Join that thing and show up, Mr. and Mrs. elected official or Mr. or Mrs. candidate for office, and start letting people know that you care. First of all, you're elected to represent everybody in the district. Those are your constituents or who your constituents want to be. Second of all, when they have those meetings, they go around the room And they have all the elected officials stand up and say hello and introduce themselves, take a couple of minutes, just like you do at your meetings. Well, when that happens, Mr. and Mrs. Elected Official, stand up and say something like this. Hello, my name is William Tell. I am a House representative. I work at the State House. This is my district. And I just want you to know that I'm here because I want to get to know you. We got to get to know each other. We may not agree on everything, and that's okay. We don't have to agree, but we don't have to dislike. So I'm going to start coming to your meetings, and I hope you'll shake my hand. I hope you'll start coming to my meetings. And let's just begin the process of getting along. And then sit down. You're not there for votes. There are no votes for you there. You are there for the purpose of putting seeds in the ground that will bear fruits tomorrow. Point number 2. Mr. and Mrs. Conservative Official, let's form a clergy committee made up of all the pastors, priests, fathers, ministers, whatever they call themselves, bishops. Let's find all the heads of the majority, minority churches in your district, put them on a council that you meet with on a regular basis, and you show up personally. Don't send your top staff aide. Don't send your chief administrator. You meet with them quarterly, monthly, whatever it is. Let's work on penetrating the community of faith. The community of faith is our softest landing spot. Let's start there. So let's get those men together, or men and women together, on a regular basis, because when you have a relationship with the pastor, by association, you now have a relationship with 200 or 300 families in your city. If the pastor endorses you informally, that's credibility with 200 or 300 other families that you would not have credibility with. So let's meet with your clergy council on a regular basis for the purpose of finding out what's happening in the community, for the purpose of just finding out what's happening in the school, for the purpose of finding out, do we need to put a crosswalk down there because in the last 2 years, 3 kids have almost been hit by a car. That's not asking for a vote. That's building a relationship. Point number 3. Mr. and Mrs. Elected Conservative Official, we need to develop a calendar. And on it, let's put all of the social events put on by the ethnic minority community in your district. The social events, quinceañeras, Cinco de Mayo, Martin Luther King Day, Juneteenth. There's all kinds of stuff. Cinco de Mayo is right around the corner. And in Denver, Colorado, in our hometown, they put on, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce puts on a huge festival. We have a booth down at that thing every year. And we're down there wearing our shirts, meeting people, shaking hands, and kissing babies. Mr. and Mrs. Elected Conservative Official, you need to be there too. Get your own booth and be down there not for the purpose of harvesting votes. There are no votes for you there. That's not why you're there. You're there to develop face and name recognition. Because right now, the only face and name recognition you have with that audience is what they see on those attack ads that come on TV every 3 years. Right. That's all they know about you. You need to be down there at Martin Luther King Day, marching in the parade. Some of my Facebookers saw the pictures. We were listening to Martin Luther King Day parade in Denver a couple of months ago. Cinco de Mayo's coming up. The Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in your city might be having a festival. A lot of them do. They rent out a big park like this. They put a pig on a spit. They have those big bouncy houses for the kids. And it's just a festival. You need to be down there with a booth, a 10 by 10 foot booth, down there with your entire staff, wearing your shirts, talking to your constituents, handing balloons to the little babies when they go by, handing a piece of candy to them, and when the people walk in front of your booth, introduce yourself. Hello, my name is Congressman so-and-so. I am a conservative, I'm a Republican, but I represent people in this district. I just wanted to say hello. What's your name? Good to meet you, Luisa. What's your name? Good to meet you, Javier. What's your name, young man? Hi, David. Good to meet you. I'm Congressman so-and-so. David, how old are you? You're 10 years old, so are you in the 4th grade? Are you trying as hard as you can in school? Okay, shaking hands and kissing babies. Point number 4. Mr. and Mrs. Conservative Official. Almost didn't make it. Mr. and Mrs. Conservative Elected Official. We need to begin conducting your town hall meetings in the ethnic minority community. Okay, the days of coming home from the state capitol or Washington, D.C., or the county seat, wherever you work, the days of coming home into district and having your town hall meetings at GOP headquarters have got to come to an end. Those people are not going to come to that meeting. So since they won't come to your meeting, let's take your meeting to them. If you're following the plan, at step number 2, you formed a clergy council. You now have a relationship with pastors and priests and ministers in the neighborhood. Well, guess what? They have a building in the neighborhood with a room that seats 150 people. Let's work that relationship and begin having your town hall meetings down in the churches in the neighborhood. Advertise it on the streets. Let people know your congressional representative is holding a town hall meeting Tuesday at 7 o'clock at St. Ignatius Church on 3333 Washington Street. You're invited to come. Guess what? The first time you have that town hall meeting, Mr. and Mrs. Elected Official, you may only get 2 people that show up. That's 2 more than we had last time. And if we start today, we'll have 2 more to the day. We may have 6 by the end of the year. We may have 15 next year. We may have 30 in 5 years. We may have 100 in 10 years, but we've got to start now. If we don't start now, 38 is gone. So Mr. and Mrs. Elected Republican official, Mr. and Mrs. Elected Conservative official, this is what we have to do. Are you willing to do it? If you are, I am a volunteer. I will come down and work with your staff on developing these calendars, on working these relationships, on making these phone calls. I will commit some of my time, effort, and energy to helping you do this. Will you not do it? If you won't do it, that's fine too. Then we will fire your ass and replace you with someone who will. It's just that simple. Point number 5. I get excited. Point number 5, last point. Mr. and Mrs. Conservative Official, we need to go back to church. By that I mean, let's pull out a map, find all of the majority, ethnic minority churches in your district, and it's a sad commentary on Christianity, but the fact of the matter is, Sunday at 10 a.m. is the most segregated hour of the week in this country. It's sad but true. Chances are most people in your church look like you. It's just the way that it is. But since it's that way, let's leverage that fact to our advantage. Okay, if you have a church with a Hispanic pastor and a Hispanic congregation, probably you got 80% of that congregation is going to be Hispanic. Let's pull out a calendar and a map, and let's get you into the church services on a regular basis. Set a goal of attending every one of those churches 4 times this year, 5 times this year, whatever. You're just going there for the purpose of shaking hands and kissing babies. You're not looking for votes. And that may mean some Sundays you got to go to church 3 times. 7 a.m. service over here, 10 a.m. service over there, and the noon service over there. But you know what? The first time you show up, no one will know who you are. The 10th time you show up, people will look at you and say, hey, Congressman so-and-so, haven't seen you for a while, how are you? Like those shoes. Relationships begin to form. Will you do it? If you will, I'll volunteer my time. I'll even drive. And I will go with you to 2 or 3 or 4 of these churches next month. If you won't, fine. We'll fire your butt. Find someone who will. Amen. 5 simple things that anyone can begin doing today for the purpose of beginning to establish relationships into the minority communities in their districts. Will it result in a victory in November? Don't know. But I do know that come November 2026, if we don't do it now, I can tell you how that's going to come out. I've seen this. We've all seen this. We have a president who in his first term delivered nothing. Laws that people didn't want, lousy economy, increase in unemployment. I mean, across the board. We all thought the county dog catcher can beat this guy. He's done nothing for 4 years besides tear our country down, and he won. And this is why. If the Conservative Party does not do a better job, you know, we love to talk about inclusiveness, love to talk about outreach, love to talk about those things. But then you go to your county meeting and you look around, and who do you see? People that look like you. Why? Because while we love to talk about it, there is no plan. I've got a plan. It might not be the best plan, but it's the best one I've heard. So what I'm doing is I'm running around the country talking to people like you saying, this is how I think we do it. Might not be the best plan, but it's a plan nevertheless.